Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing another Angels and Demons video and we're doing about Metatron this time. So as usual, I will give you a quote from one of my books where someone's mentioned this being before. Then I will give you the background data that I have on it that I've used to build it up in my own universe. Here we go. Metatron. Yes, it was a surprise to meet that being, but I wouldn't say Archangel or even Angel truly suits him as a title. He's He's something much more powerful and yet almost unreal. Hearing a demon say that tells you a lot about him. A quote from Blood Circle. I have to admit, despite having a reasonable knowledge of certain demons above angels, when I was younger, I never knew who Metatron was until I watched the brilliant film Dogma and watched Alan Rickman play the rather irritated voice of God. At the same time, at the time, I remember my older sister querying how I did not know that. But to be fair, I wasn't really that into such things at the time, and yet from then on, and when I would later find things like Angel Oracle and find myself dipping into the depths of demonology and the heights of angelology, I found myself learning about being connected to the colour purple and geometric shapes. So who is Metatron? Well, that's a good question because they had no mention in the Hebrew Bible, but I consider the most powerful of angels and important. There's a sort of idea that if a human were to be spoken to directly by God, then they might not be able to completely comprehend, and thus all prophets were generally spoken to by angels on behalf of God, or in strange forms, which can be rather cut out of certain narratives and interpretations. From that idea comes the concept of what Metatron is, as the voice of God, the intermediary between mankind and the Almighty, and thus the rather curious idea that they were a human turned angel, and who were they? Well, apparently it was someone we've mentioned a lot around angels named Enoch. Of course, understanding on whether he was Enoch or is another angelic prince or possibly even an aspect of Michael is debatable. His existence occurs in Jewish folklore as well as he is mentioned in the Talmud and has a role in Kabbalistic texts. In the idea that he is Enoch, the story goes that Enoch, when he passed, ascended into heaven, becoming an angel and primarily the scribe writing the sins and merits of man. In fact, the whole voice of God aspect that tends to get popularized to push Metatron into a higher position above all other angels is something more pushed through in popular culture than in sources. Metatron is mentioned in Islam under a similar name and in a similar role as the Angel of Presence. To be fair, the subject of Metatron and whether they were human turned angel and in fact nearly every aspect of the angelic being is under debate by varying sources and scholars over where some ideas come from and the concept of a human becoming an angel. As Metatron appears like most angels in the Book of Enoch, thus apocryphal texts, then the actual nature of this being really is up for debate. However, one of the most curious aspects about the Angel of Presence is wherein his name is used in Hebrew numerology, and in fact, the link between Metatron and geometric shapes within angelology. His link to the colour purple is, of course, stemming from purple's ceremonial imperial position amongst clothing colours, and the high position Metatron holds amongst other angels. There are even said to be people born within angelology that are stated as children of Metatron and unique in many different ways. Often the people that will guide the world, though it can also be different forms of creativity and communication. They also have another name, but I cannot remember off the top of my head. I think it's Indigo Children. But whether that is strictly linking to Metatron or someone pushing that idea that it's linked to Metatron is another matter. There's few angels to get as much of a presence in angelology and angel oracle as Metatron. In fact, it is probably because some of their descriptions denote them as the lesser Yahweh and the archetype of man, meaning their position is one that should be looked up to. One of their three mentions in the Talmud is to point out that though others must exit a room, Metatron can stay because he is the assigned scribe to the Almighty, and it shows the curious sort of position Metatron has. In fact, it calls to mind a sort of quiet and malevolent figure, though this is not always how they've been portrayed. His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman has Metatron as a rather terrifying antagonist that is certainly not someone anyone wants to face and certainly wiped out those taking him down. My own interpretation of Metatron was debated. Firstly, because I wondered if I even wanted or needed them within the Veil universe, but as one of their titles in Islam is the Angel of the Veil, it seemed I needed them to build a bit of a bridge between the way plain, simple humans are favoured in the Veil universe as opposed to beings like the vampires and whatnot in a spiritual sense. So here's my version, and I would say I'm probably not able to give you as much about Metatron as you'd like here. Certainly, I would check other videos by other people or do some simple searching because it's very, to be fair, it depends on who you want to listen to, whose idea you like more. And well, when I was doing this, I just wanted to keep with a basic one of Metatron rather than specifically choose one scholar and their debated theory or another that states it isn't Enoch and whatnot. So, meanwhile, here's my Metatron. Name Metatron, position, voice of the Almighty to mortals. Story featured in various mentions. Role, voice of the Almighty, speaking directly to humans, not other species. Gender, male. Description, an aged, perhaps middle-aged man with olive skin that shows wear and tear from a life lived upon the earth. They have hair that is black but peppered with grey and white streaks, and their eyes are not fire but gentle, familiar golden. They wear long robes of varying colours, and about them is always a soft purple light. They have no wings, but where they stand, the geometric shapes used in exorcism to trap demons are present, and always in their hand is a scroll with a quill ready to write. Realm Heaven abilities, they know the will and plan of the Almighty and can steer humans in the right direction, and they know the sins and graces of every human. Master of the Almighty, personality, deep resonating voice. They are seemingly stern at first, but gentle out as they speak. They have an air of familiarity around them and strength. Little known reassurance. This is part of his personality to learn, to make note, and to be the compassionate medium between humans and beyond. They have no liking for demons and can be very aggressive to them, harming them with their voice, and yet Valelanders have a very curious fascination with him. Relations, Sandalphon, his brother when they were alive, and a fellow angel in heaven. Their sensation of brotherhood is a little more built from their time as humans than just normal brotherhood within the angelic host, and they are very close to one another. Gabriel, his assistant at times and often the one to do most of the talking to humans in his stead, unless it's important enough he must go to them. They're cordial with one another. Michael, Metatron often feels the fury within Michael keenly because it evokes his own more human feelings of rage at some of the actions of man, but he is not as intimidating, and indeed is intimidated at times by Michael. Lucifer, his great enemy, where humility and faith brought Metatron into his position to aid other humans. Thus he is sometimes an opposite number to Lucifer. However, when it comes down to it, even Metatron needs the faith and aid of the Almighty whenever Lucifer is present to debate with him. Beelzebub, the being he has encountered the most and hates greatly. Their equal power with voice has often put them against one another, and Metatron has a great hatred that almost pulls him out of his heavenly poise when dealing with a being that sees him as a human, no matter what purpose has been ascribed to him. History. Known as Enoch upon Earth, Metatron has very little memory of anything much more than the angels he saw visions of, and the voice that called up to him. He was taken not when dying, but before that time, his body becoming a flame, before he was drawn up to take a throne beneath that of the Almighty and changed from Enoch into the angel named Metatron. Upon his ascent, it was clear that the world of man was about to change as they were fully pulled away from the veil, and Metatron was to be the voice that separated humanity from the veil, that stood between the true knowledge and the acceptance of the Most High, and the way humans would grow and learn themselves. Metatron has accepted this role, and he's had to appear from time to time, although not often identified, to write what is happening before him, or to speak on the Almighty's behalf. He has been called to battle before as a warrior, joining Michael to face demons that have harmed humans, and he has shown great desire to protect those that hear voices that are not their own, and certainly not the Almighty's. In this he has faced Beelzebub many times, and has grown to hate a being that can burn the mind of an innocent human with their voice alone. Something he can do to set any other demon aflame and back into hell. Final comments. So, I'm not much of a big fan of Metatron. For me, they're one of those aspects of angelology and angel oracle that I felt no connection with. But then again, I tend to find I'm always more intrigued by the demons to the angels anyway. Forgive me if this was not very informative or useful. I'll cover Belphegor next time, and after him Sandalphon, so I hope you will find them interesting. Thank you for listening.